Hello, I'm Lisa. Thank you for joining me here at the This Calls for Confetti YouTube channel. It truly warms my heart to be back and sharing something incredibly special with you. Our first stamp set, Alice's Story, Honeysuckle. Now, I'll be sharing my thought process behind this stamp set today. And since we all process information differently, I thought it would be a great idea to share some insight and hopefully help you get the most enjoyment out of our products. With that said, let's dive in together. So here on the screen, you can see the honeysuckle stamp and coordinating dies. It's a 13-piece stamp set and a 10-piece die set. It has very minimalistic images in it. I love that. They're so clean and simple looking. If you flip the packaging over once you have the product in hand, you're going to read across the top. It tells you information behind Alice's Story collection. And then, of course, have the name of the stamp set. And then down below that is going to be a memory that I share with you from my childhood that explains the significance of the honeysuckle and the other things in this stamp set. With that said, let's start to talk about some of the individual pieces in this stamp set. I wanted to include a vase, and like I said, once you read that memory, you'll understand the significance of this. And I'm stamping it right now with Simon Says Stamp Fog ink. I just grabbed this gray ink because when I was doing this, I had a vision in mind for a card. So I thought, well, let's go ahead and stamp this out and see how it looks. We're not going to use it in the card tutorial at the end of the video, but I'm still going to use it to demonstrate to you some of the things in this set. So you're also going to notice the word love, and you're probably going to think when you first see it, that really doesn't connect with any of the other sentiments in this set. And it wasn't meant to connect with those. It was homage to my mom. The love and the heart is my way of paying homage to her. So I thought, if I size this, you'll be able to use it directly on the vase and you can decorate your vase with it. Also, the little hearts, you can randomly stamp them on your vase. I see in my mind's eye 3 little hearts stamped right across the front of that vase. So that's the reason that I included those, and that's how you can use them. There's many other ways that you can use them, but that's just what I envisioned with that. So I'm going to quickly run a second stamped vase through my die cutting machine because I want you guys to see how this die cuts out. I also wanted to show you that you don't have to stamp that image. If you're in a hurry and you need a quick card, the set is amazing for that. You can die cut that vase out of colored cardstock and use it as is, or you can take that love or the heart and you can do some heat embossing on this to add some texture to it if you want. A lot of different things you're going to be able to do with that. So now let's talk about the honeysuckle image itself. As you all know, with photopolymer, if you have a very thin line like you do with the stem here, it can be very flexible. And sometimes when you lay it down and you stamp it, the way that it lays is not necessarily going to line up with the way the die is, because the die is metal and it doesn't give any, but the stamp does. So what I decided to start doing with all of my stamps like this, I'll grab the coordinating die and I'll just lay it down over the stamp before stamping it so that I can make sure everything is lining up beautiful. And then once I have everything laid out exactly the way I want it, the stem is exactly where I need it to be. I'm going to remove that die. I'm going to go ahead and stamp my images onto my cardstock. And then I know everything's going to line up perfectly. So I decided while we were here stamping, we would go ahead and start a little bit of the card process. And what I've done is I've stamped the images with Memento Tuxedo black ink. We're going to do some Copic coloring. You could color with anything you want. The beauty of these images is their fine details. It's not a lot of coloring involved with this. I'm learning that as I get older, coloring is not my favorite thing when it comes to card making. I have so many other things I would prefer to be doing. So one of the reasons that I fell in love with this particular honeysuckle image was because it had such fine details to it. And I knew immediately when I saw it that it was going to be super simple to color. So yay for that. And I'm just using 4 Copic markers to color this. I'm using Y32 and Y21 because I like that very creamy, yellow color with the honeysuckle. And I start with the dark Y32, flick it up, and then I come in and just blend out the end of that Y32 with the Y21. And I flick it up, and I even leave a little bit of white along the top edges of that. So here I'm coming in with G24, which I do believe is Willow. And I'm just laying down a little bit of that in the leafy areas of the stems. And then I'm going to come in with G28 and just flick that out a little bit. My intention was to just use the G24, but I decided to add a little bit more life to the image. I would come in with a darker G28 and just flick that out into that G24. Now, if you want to come in and blend those together a little bit, you most certainly could do that. But you can see here, I am just taking my time. I'm not in a big hurry, but it doesn't take 5 minutes to color this image. So it really is a great stamp set and die set for creating quick and simple cards, but they're so beautiful. Especially when you pair them with our Hello elongated frame die set, which we're going to have a look at that shortly. So now that I have my images colored, I'm going to stamp them again with VersaFine Clear ink. You could use any black ink that you prefer. That is great for details, but this is a step that I've started doing when I do color because I do like the way that the VersaFine Clear ink stamps with all the beautiful detail of the images, and it just makes those images pop. So when I have something that's quick and simple to color like this, I just leave it in the Misty, color it quickly, and then I'll go ahead and stamp over 1 or 2 times until I'm happy with the way it looks. You could skip this step completely if it's something that you don't want to add into your routine, but I have found that it really makes a big difference in the way the images look once you have them colored with your Copic markers. So now that we have them stamped and colored, we're going to go ahead and run these through the die cutting machine. And I want you to notice that when I'm lining up the dies, everything is lining up perfectly because I took the time before stamping them the first time and made sure that my dies and my stamp were lining up correctly. Now, here's another tip. Once you cut these out, you could hang on to this negative piece and store it in your stamp pocket with your stamps and dies. And then anytime you wanted to make sure that your stamps were lining up, just pull out your negative piece and check to see that your stamp is laid down correctly on your acrylic block or in your stamp positioning tool. And then you're ready to go. You don't have to bring the dies out. But for me, it's quick and simple. Before I actually have a negative piece, just to grab the die, I'm not wasting cardstock. I can simply just lay that die down and then make sure everything is lined up correctly and get on with my business. So let's go ahead and run these through. Once we have these run through, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the Hello elongated frame die set. I am loving that elongated frame die set. I want to talk to you about the whys behind some of the pieces in that set because I'm sure there are going to be some people wondering why I designed it the way that I designed it. So let's go ahead and head on into that. I want to start out by saying this black and white plaid paper is from our Boo paper pad that is available in our online shop. There are several plaids in there that you could use year round. Plus there's some star patterns in that paper pad as well. Let's talk real quick about this Hello elongated frame die set. So you see here I cut my pattern paper out with the A2 size elongated oval window included in that set. Now you could use just the frame and get this same cutout, except the size is going to be a little bit different. So if you use the frame that you see in the center, it's going to cut 3 pieces of paper. It's going to cut the outer A2 size window, it's going to cut the frame, and it's going to cut the center of that frame out. I wanted to use the A2 die itself to cut out my pattern paper because if you use that larger A2 window frame, you're going to have a little bit of space between your die cut frame and your pattern paper. And when I lay this down on white cardstock, you're going to see how having that little bit of space between the pattern paper and the frame really makes that frame pop off of the paper. So let's go ahead and add some glue to the back of our die cut pattern paper. And we're going to go ahead and add that to an A2 size card base. Now I use Nina Avalanche White cardstock. You can use whatever you have on hand, whatever your favorite cardstock is. That's what I recommend that you use. So glue to the back and then add it to your card base. Now I like to tell people start lining your paper up from the top of your card base. So flip it upside down so the fold is touching your glass mat or whatever surface you're working with, and then line everything up, because if you need to make cuts, you can trim from the bottom and the sides, but if you have to trim from the top, you're going to need a new card base. So that's why I always recommend to flip it upside down and line your pattern paper up that way. So here you can see what I was talking about. That white between the pattern paper and the black frame just really makes this pop off that paper. I'm going to add some dimension to this. I have some extra pieces here left over from die cutting that I've done previously for other projects, and I hang on to these for this very reason. I'm just using glue to stack these on top of each other, and then I'll add them to the black frame, and then we'll go ahead and center the black frame in the center of our card base. Now, this die set was made to work with this stamp set. So if you wanted to die cut the frame out and take the inside section and stamp the honeysuckle images onto that center section, you most certainly could do that because it was sized so that it would fit this image. And you're going to see when I lay these in here, they fit perfectly. Another reason I love this die set is because if you decide to use just the A2 window section of it and the center of the frame, you're going to get this gorgeous shaker frame around your stamped and colored images. Now I have a card like that I'll add at the end of the video so you can check it out. Right now what I'm doing is I'm just adding some little tiny foam adhesives to the back of my colored images so that I can go ahead and add them to the center of my card. Once I have that done, we'll hop on into stamping the sentiment for this and die cutting it out and then adding a few sparkle gems, and then that's going to wrap us up. This card comes together so quickly. So if you're ever in a hurry and you need a quick card, this is a great stamp set and die set to have for that very reason. And you can use this for so many things. We have the sentiment, sweet as honeysuckle on the vine. We have happy birthday, happy Mother's Day, just because. We also have that love word, and like I said, my intention was to stamp it onto the base, but I did include the die, so that if you want to die cut that word out, you most certainly can. And here you can see how the images fit perfectly in that inner frame. So let's go ahead now and add our sentiments to this, and then we'll wrap this video up and I will get ready to dive into an in-depth video with the Hello Elongated frame die set for you, because there's so many things I want to share with you in depth, in detail about that die set. So I really want to get going on that video next. Okay, so here I'm just using my VersaFine Clair inks to go ahead and stamp the honeysuckle sentiment and sweet as on the vine. If you want to know about this particular sentiment, you can head over to my blog. I'll link it down below for you. And you can read about this sentiment and how it was kind of almost a sign from my mom that I was heading in the right direction with this stamp set. It's actually very very touching story. You'll have to go read it if you really want to know about it. It's best if you just hop over there and check it out. Me trying to describe it to you here is just, I don't want to start blubbering, okay? So here I'm just lining up that honeysuckle die. And you see these 3 dies here that I'm pointing at. Those are dies for your sentiments in this set. I am a girl who loves her sentiment dies with her coordinating die sets. So I'm always going to do my best to include those sentiment dies whenever I can when I have a coordinating die set. So here I'm just using some more foam adhesives to pop the honeysuckle up. And then I'll go across the top of the honeysuckle with sweet as, and right underneath on the vine for a quick sweet as honeysuckle on the vine sentiment. And I'm going to add a few sparkle gems from the Alice's Story Honeysuckle mix that I created to go with this. And that's going to wrap us up on this. Now, there are some links that I'm including down in the description for you. So if you need links to the products, you're going to find them down in the description box. If you need links to our shop, it'll be found there as well. Plus to the blog post, that will be there too. If there's anything else that you want to know about, just leave a comment down below and I will answer it as quickly as possible. I hope you enjoyed the video content, and don't forget, give it a thumbs up if you did. That's important too. And until next time, please take care.